So it's raining and it's buggy, but this is still easier than filming in my house with my kids right now. So here we go. Wish me luck. So I have this amazing analogy for what the mind is and how awareness filters through the mind. And the real purpose of this analogy, which again is understood by the mind, is to apply this in your life in deeply felt transformational ways. So, as interesting and amazing as this stuff seems, there's a method to the madness, and the madness is the method. So, here we go. So, credit also to Rupert Spira, who didn't talk about it exactly in this way, but this is how I sort of framed it in my own mind to understand what he was saying. So imagine awareness as a giant, like, sea cucumber sea sponge. So you have this huge amorphous shape, and it's full of pores, it's full of holes. And so our shared being is that we are all that empty space within it, but our point of view is a hole. So we are literally nothing, and we're looking outside of this hole. And so another way to explain this is, if you are nearsighted, this is absolutely magical, like I am. I'm wearing contacts right now because I cannot see very well without glasses or contacts at all. But if you poke a tiny hole through a piece of paper and you look through it without your glasses on, it focuses your vision. All of a sudden you can see really well. Because what glasses do, and what this does, is it limits the amount of light that's getting in. And so you can see more clearly. So this is how focus itself works, and I've talked a lot in my most recent videos about focus and how we're focused. So what happens is we take ourselves to be the post-it note, not the whole. And so sometimes when you have an awakening, you start to see this, and this is what I see often happen with awakening experiences. So you enlarge this hole, and all of a sudden you're suddenly conscious of things that you were never conscious of before, and it's amazing. But you don't realize, you come back, you see this wondrous mechanism and the infinite nature of all you really are, and you come back and you take yourself to be a more open-minded individual still. So if we're awareness, all we're doing is looking out from this. So we are essentially nothing, but we take our immediate surroundings, and so this is where I am the body belief comes from. We take that to be us, or we take our religion to be us, or our family, or our traditions, or the location we grew up, all kinds of different ways that we can identify things that we like, and then we turn the things that we like and the amazing, like, love and resonance and the knowing of what we really are comes from the light itself, and we can sometimes turn those into limitations. So the focus is a limitation. You are the light, you are not what you're seeing through. And so your mind acts as a filter to help you to focus on things. And it does not, it's actually a limitation. So what we're doing is we're learning to use this focus for good, in alignment with the qualities of awareness that are already our absolute direct experience. So of course, in our direct experience, there is no mind, and this is a visual thing. There's no mind, but it's experienced as a thought. And so our feelings and our sensations and everything, whether that thought is aligned with awareness and it's expansive, it's free, or it's not, we know by how we feel. And this is so incredibly simple that it's so easily overlooked. And so this whole journey is sort of like a return to innocence. And you can save yourself a bunch of time and just listen to the song by Enigma, Return to Innocence, because it's basically talking about the same thing. So in the Garden of Eden, you have the tree of knowledge, and you have good and evil, and all of a sudden comes in this aspect of shame and blame and being excluded from the garden. And this is what the mind is. And so non-duality is not monism. We're not saying that everything is one, because this is the creation of one. This whole is nothing, and yet it seems to have a border to it, and so it becomes an integer. So with the birth of one, all other numbers are all 2 is 2 ones, 3 is 3 ones. It's an integer thing. And so 1 starts with us and gives birth to 2, and then you have 2 parents, which gives birth to 3, which gives birth to the entire universe. And this goes on and on and on and on until we start to disregard what we think we are, and we disregard the outside limitations, and we start to see the source of the light. So you believe that the source of the light is the sun, but it's only in your awareness that there is a sun, if you're aware of it. And we are this light that is beyond consciousness, that is beyond being conscious of something or not. And so often when we start to disregard these limitations, the ironic thing that we do is we're used to looking at others through this, and we're used to them looking at us through this. And if you think of your pupil and you think of making eye contact with someone and the deep connection, and yet sometimes the discomfort that can sometimes arise from making eye contact with someone, you're essentially you're a letting in, and so this analogy is pretty amazing for that. So to really connect with someone, we have to stop looking outwards, and we have to stop taking ourselves, if we're looking to other people to derive our identity from. We think about how this is looking all the time, and so we're trying to look out of it and trying to think about how others, and we've forgotten that we're the light. We forget this. And so often because we've identified with something false, once we realize that it is false, it can seem like it's an effort to let go of it. And really the effort was, the limitation was the thought, was the identity, was the belief. And so Nisargadatta Maharaj has a beautiful quote that talks about this process of letting go, and this is sometimes experienced as loneliness. And ironically, when we realize that we already are completely whole, that we don't need an outside source of light, that we don't need an outside source of perception looking at us in a positive light to feel loved, we can feel this letting go. And if this is actually truly felt and not resisted, this is felt to be a beautiful thing. But it's that resistance that is the limitation and is the clinging. And it's easy to talk about in terms of analogies and talk about in language, but it takes really paying attention to feeling and really be willing just to drop the thoughts, not actually drop the attachment. That's again, we think we have an attachment, and that's where we get into the shame that covers over this complete loss of those limitations which we feel like defines us. So here's the quote from Nisargadatta Maharaj. My post-it notes are getting really soggy here. There are always moments when one feels empty and estranged. Such moments are most desirable, for it means the soul has cast its moorings and is sailing for distant places. This is detachment when the old is over and the new has not yet come. If you are afraid, the state may be distressing, but there is really nothing to be afraid of. Remember the instruction, whatever you come across, go beyond. And so, as we open our minds more and this whole becomes larger and larger, we become aware of more and more. And this is why it can be a strange process and awakenings that so much is let go of, and yet we take on these sort of funny spiritual egos or funny identities or clingings or structures of how we think we are and how we think others are and how we think that the world is gonna work. But coming back to the initial analogy of the collective us, which is duality, being this giant sea cucumber thing full of different perspectives. If they're all looking out, you can never really see or connect each other. It's only when you look back inwards and see what you truly are that you can feel and connect with the love of the whole that is without any borders. So understanding awareness, or the giant sea cucumber, sea sponge analogy, realize that there is no substance, no separation that actually makes up the sea cucumber. But this is all just sort of an effect of focus, and everything that you're directly seeing and directly conscious of without a filter that has been an unaligned belief that you've been holding on to for a really long time is pure light. And so there's no inside and there's no outside and there's no actual limitation of the light whatsoever. And when you go to your direct experience, you feel something. So if you see a sunset or a beautiful scene and it makes you feel a certain way, does the outside object cause that inside response? Or as something is seen, as you feel a sensation, if I feel this moss on my hand, my mind says the moss is outside me. And this is one sensation without inner or outer. So all our experience is already without inside or without outside. And this seems like, at first, such an esoteric pointer, but really it's mundane and magical beyond the meanings of those words anymore. So it's just amazing to me I feel so honored to be able to talk about this and actually put this out there into the world, because I realize more and more how my deepest desires to act authentically and openly, this understanding it just feels so amazing. And it really does feel like you can return to the sort of innocence that you were kicking and fighting your way towards letting go of as we grew into adults and started thinking that we had to make things happen and we had to be responsible and be seen. And again, we were worried about how our post-it note looked to other post-it notes, not realizing that post-it notes can't see post-it notes because they're not real, they're inanimate, they're dead, and covering over that aliveness so much. It's amazing. I can't believe that I stumbled on this stuff. I cannot believe that I can actually interact with people who understand this. It's just the most mind-blowing, amazing thing I never even dreamed that I really wanted. And it's kind of like all your other desires fall away when you see that the universe, or you yourself, or this greater wisdom, or knowing what it is, really knows for you what you truly desire. And there's no reason whatsoever to have to let go of anything else or have to feel excluded from anything else. And so that exact kind of feeling of lack or loneliness or deep not okayness that we can't put our finger on, if we stop looking outward into objects to solve that and really go into it as we can, bit by bit, it's amazing what kind of magic unfolds and what kind of feelings can be felt and what kind of understanding beyond knowing comes in. So one other thing came to my mind really quick as I slipped and fell on some rocks in the same place for the second time because I couldn't remember that they were slippery. So shaming ourselves comes from believing that we're the post-it note that should know better and doesn't realize that the knowing is what's coming. It's what it's allowing through. And so shaming is disallowing and misunderstanding what we are to be. So the flip side of this is that we idolize others. And a really good example of how this happens is how I feel after the Olympics. So sometimes there will be a summer, winter Olympics, doesn't matter. And I'll be like, I really don't care about any of this stuff. And then I get so enthralled and so inspired that I don't know how to take that inspiration and apply it into my life, because I realize that ship has sailed. I'm never going to be a gymnast at 32 years old. And when you realize you're the light and the sheer inspiration, you can take that, you can transmute that. That is alchemy. You can apply that to whatever you truly desire, whatever you're truly called to be. But when we're this bedraggled post-it note and we see some other amazing jumbo size post-it note in this amazing pattern and we think we're the post-it note, we feel lacking. When in reality, when we see that post-it note, we are seeing it with the light. That is us. So any amazing thing that you see, anything that takes your breath away, any sort of, this is what jealousy really is. It's thinking we're the post-it note, that post-it note is, and the potential there, the resonance there for sheer inspiration is what's really being covered over. And so when we hit these feelings of shame, or we hit these feelings of jealousy, we have a feeling of jealousy and then it turns into shame and then it becomes this whole cycle. It's relaxing the mind, it's the meditation and the coming back into the already unlimited light that you actually are, that actually transmutes that into an incredible gift.